Hello, my name's Diane and I make and sell quilts on an online Etsy shop. So, if you're interested to see how I make quilts on a limited budget using basic materials, carry on watching. You'll never get rich, but you might have a bit of fun. I just thought I'd show you the fabric I have left over from the 2 Christmas quilts I've made. So before making the Irish chain Christmas quilt, I made 2 Christmas quilts previous to that one, and that's where the fabric came from this year, and this was the first. And I really love this quilt. If it doesn't sell, then I might keep it. I know that's not good business sense, but it is my favourite. It's all my favourite colours. It is a variable carpenter star in the centre with sampler blocks around the outside, and then this gorgeous little candy twist border. Oh, so beautiful. But you can't have favourites and you can't keep them all. That's what I say to my children anyway. This one I've called Raising the Bar because it's a bar quilt, and this was the second Christmas quilt of 2022. Really enjoyed making this one. I did attempt a video making that, but that was pretty awful, so I wouldn't recommend you go back and watch that one. But this was the second one of 2022. There's quite a lot of this. When I say quite a lot, there's not yards. There may be about a yard, maybe more, of the blue with the Christmas motifs on. There is some gold, there's some red with the white stars. There's all of these 3-inch squares. There are some 4 3/4-inch squares, and there are some half square triangles, 3 inches, and a couple of fat quarters left. Now I do feel a little bit Christmased out. Do I want to make another Christmas quilt on the back of the 2 that I've already done? I think I need a cup of coffee to help me think about that one. Come and join me. I'm having a cup of coffee and thinking about the quilt, the Christmas fabric that's left over. And I'll tell you what my dilemma is. Normally after I've finished a quilt, if there's material left over, then what I tend to do is cut it up into sizes that I used most frequently in my quilts, and then I will store it away in the boxes that I have, separate places for them. However, because it's a Christmas themed fabric, I don't like to mix that in. What would you do if you were in my position? How would you handle the little bits of fabric that's left? And this is what it's going to be. It is a Christmas Irish chain scrappy quilt. Blue is such a dominant colour. I think this will work. So I'm going to have 21 squares across, 21 3-inch squares down. A finished block 3x3 is 7.5-inch square. That will result in a 52.5-inch square quilt without borders. I may put a border on. So the fabric I needed to make the Irish chain, 125 blue of the 3-inch squares. 21 squares by 21 is 441. Take away the 125, which means I needed 316 squares of the alternating colours, which are white, gold, red, and look, there's a lovely little robin on that one, sage green. So I think that will look nice, but we shall see. So there were some more bits of fabric left over, slithers, which are the ruler width. I've cut those. And these will all go into another wallet, ready for when I make a Christmas log cabin quilt. That'll take a while, a few years really, to get enough, but look. There's some little beauties here, little robins managed to catch. So that's an ongoing project. That's a saving one again, not wasting it. One day there'll be a quilt that has cost very little, but I'll have everything ready. Well, I have black threading. I cleaned all my machine after my last quilt. Everything's nice and clean. I have just over a 2 length stitch. I have the central square of the blue and the other colours at hand, and I'm just going to chain piece. So I'm going to put the radio on and sit and have a nice quiet relaxing day. It's cold outside, it's raining, so what else would you want to do on a day like that? So I thought I'd share a little story with you about robins. This morning when I opened my kitchen blinds, a small robin flew into the window. It sat on the floor stunned. I was really worried, thinking, one of the magpies might come, a predator bird, and have it. So I put a table over the top to shelter it from the rain. Obviously it was in shock. And then its mate came and sat on the edge of the bench and started talking to it, chirping away. And the little one on the floor was listening. It's moving its head. I couldn't see any damage to the wing. It was all tucked up nicely. And then a few minutes later, they flew off together. So, danger averted. Oh, now I finish sewing up the 9 patches for the Irish chain using the blue, and we just have 2 blue squares left over from that fabric. And now I am going to do the coloured blocks that go in the middle. And these are all 9 patch blocks as well, so I've just distributed this colour around. I'll be taking 2 and sewing those together randomly. So hopefully these piles are roughly similar sizes. Hopefully there'll be a good distribution of colour when I finish at the blocks. I've changed the black thread now for cream because I finished with the dark blue, and we'll see how this goes. Here we are then, keeping it real. At the moment I'm standing on a chair in the corner of my bedroom with the quilt laid out on the bed, just so I can get a look. It's in 3 rows. I've joined them all together, the blocks. They're in 3 rows, and I'm waiting for some material to come to edge and back it. But I'm pleased with the colour distribution across, and the Irish chain stands out. So I'm glad I never tucked that fabric away. It needs to be in my shop, it needs to be earning money. Someone needs to buy it. How can you not resist it? It is so beautiful. And yes, it was a bit of a faff to fussy cut all these squares, but look at them. Calling birds, deer, 3 French hens. I don't know why there is an owl. We have geese laying. We have a partridge in a pear tree. 2 turtle doves. So the designer of this fabric, there's a golden ring. There's a hare. That hare leaping. There's a robin. There's a squirrel. So it looked as if the designer of this fabric thought about the 12 days of Christmas and then went off-piste a little bit. But who could blame her with that lovely little owl? Anyway, I think this is going to be a quilt that someone somewhere will love. And while I'm here looking at this quilt, I can see now how I'm going to quilt it. So I'm going to miss the dark squares and I'm going to do a cross hatch straight across the quilt and just go into the coloured squares. So the blue will remain untouched so the images can shine out, and I'll use a pale thread in that. I think that would work nicely. And I thought I'd give you a little update about the robins. Remember the other day one flew into the window? Well, I can report that they both seem healthy. They're feeding on the bird stand as we speak, so no long-term damage. And this is the backing that I'm using for the quilt. It's 100% cotton. It's a lovely feel, so soft, it's really lovely. And it's white with a sort of red leaf, as you can see, sort of autumnal, wintry feel. I have put a border of red on the other side so it all ties in nicely. I'll show you how I get on. The walking foot is on the machine. So, as you can see, I have the ironing board at the edge of the table to catch the weight of the quilt as it feeds through the machine. It's going quite smoothly at the moment. I have a 4-length stitch going across the quilt, and I am just quilting from corner to corner. When I've finished all of this, I will go across the other side. A nice clean cross hatch. I'll see you on the other side. So I finished quilting the top, and I'm pleased I left the blue squares without stitching in. They really jump out. Looks nice. And there is enough stitching, enough quilting on the top to hold the back in the batting and the front flimsy together. The manufacturer's instructions say that the quilting should be 4 inches apart maximum, and this is just under 3.5. So we're within those guidelines. And the less quilting you have, the softer the quilt. The more quilting, the more stitches on the top, the harder it gets. So I do like this soft, fluffy feel. And I think it's looking good. So I am now going to finish the edges and we're almost done. And that's it. It's a wrap. Well, it's not. It's a quilt. But it's finished. As you can see, the back is this beautiful soft cotton. Looks really lovely. And it's self-binding. And I've brought it to the front. And I've taken my time. It's a lovely mitered corner. I put red thread in the top to put the border on the quilt. Add some little stitches, just little finishing touches. That makes the quilt special. Someone is going to spend some money on this, hopefully. And I've made it with care, so I hope they appreciate that.